Have you ever caught yourself talking to yourself and saying things that you would never say to someone you love? I don't understand why we women we struggle, to just be kind to ourselves. Hi everyone and you're welcome to this episode on this platform. If you're joining me for the first time, welcome. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and just be a part of this journey and a part of this channel. I just want to say that something that's been coming up of recent, often in my meetings with my clients, is negative self talk. As women, we're our own worst critic. We're so hard on ourselves. We say things that we wouldn't even say to people we love. We are um we're so negative when it comes to how we see ourselves. The inner voice within us is always telling us we're not good enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not doing enough. We always criticize how we look, how we show up in life. And the way you see yourself affects the way you show up in life. How you talk to yourself affects the way you talk, you know, about and about your life. And I just want to say that, you know, it's something that I've been noticing that is very common. And somewhere along the line, as women, we've been taught to be perfect. And there's nothing like perfect. There's nothing that is perfect, no one is perfect. So I don't know why we feel the need to always push ourselves and to be perfect at in the way we show up in everything. I don't know. Is it when we're growing up? Is it what we were told, how we were raised? You see, a man will make a mistake or do something and they will shake it off and move on and be like, oh, I guess I'll do better next time. But as women, we're so hard on ourselves, we beat ourselves down so much. In fact, we don't even need other people to do it. We do enough well of a job beating ourselves down than any other person can. And this is just me saying we have to start seeing ourselves better. We have to start loving ourselves. We have to start acknowledging our effort, acknowledging our achievements. It's a big deal. It's almost like we achieve something and we're on to the next. We're not even pausing to acknowledge our achievements, what we've done, what we've gone through. There are some women that have gone through so much in life and they still can't take a moment to pause and acknowledge what they've been through and what they've gone through. Because if you can't even acknowledge, how can you move forward? It's like a cycle that you feel stuck in because you're always putting yourself down. And I say that, like women that have gone through some hard situation in their life, whether if a failed marriage or a relationship or even struggle with parenting, you blame yourself even though you did your best, even though you put in your all, and then you're so hard on yourselves. But I'm not saying that there's no room for growth, and there are not times that we need to sit and reflect on things we could have done better or things we could have done differently. But the important part is even when we do all things right, we still blame ourselves. Where did that come from? Where did the negative self talk come from? And why is it so prevalent with women in general? So I think we need to start taking note of situations where we find ourselves. And the next thing is we're criticizing ourselves. Even when you make a mistake at work, especially if it's a genuine mistake, why do you beat yourself down so much? It's a mistake, and take accountability for the role you played, see what you could have done differently next time, and then you improve on that and you move on. That's how men do it. But we women were so hard on ourselves. The negative inner voice is working over time, and it's time we have to start quieting it down. It's time we start saying enough is enough. Yes, I made a mistake. I hear what you're saying. I'm going to learn from this and do better next time, and then move on. We don't need to dwell in that space or dwell in that spot and just be stuck on, or the mistakes that we've made. Issue is when you are not learning from your mistakes. As long as you're taking accountability, you're aware of the errors and where you went wrong and how you can do better next time, then you need to let it go. You need to let it go. The reason why it's important to let this go is because when you have negative self-talk, it starts to show up in every area of your life. It affects your confidence, how you speak, how you show up to people in public, in different places. It gets to a point where you even start believing those things that you're saying to yourself. Those voices become so loud that they even blur reality. They confuse you, and you don't even know who you are anymore, and they mess up with your confidence. It's like somebody that is making an effort and they're doing well, or they're doing everything they can do to be a better version of themselves, and then the inner voice is saying you're not doing enough, you're not good enough, and you keep listening to it. Over time, you're going to be discouraged to even continue trying because you're beginning to believe that inner voice and that negative self talk. So, I just want to encourage you, when you get to a point where you're hearing that voice or you're hearing those things telling you you're not good enough, you have to, first of all, notice it and be like, okay, I this is happening and this is what my inner voice is telling me. What part is reality? What part is fact? What part do I need to ignore and continue to push through? Those are the things. And then when you notice it, then you pause. When you're pausing, what you're doing is acknowledging what you're telling yourself, and then compare it with reality. Is it true? Am I a bad person because this happened, or am I a wicked person because I did this, or I said something I didn't mean I said something to somebody that I didn't mean in the moment because I've been working 1 week nonstop. I've had barely 3 hours of sleep each day, and I take accountability for the role I did. But does that make me a bad person overall? Or is there ways I can course correct, maybe apologize, explain to the person and do better next time and move on? Do I keep beating myself down and say I'm a horrible person because of that? Those are all the questions you want to pause and ask yourself, and then you just reflect and you move on, because you're just like, no, this is not who I am. And when you're thinking about those things, instead of you saying I'm a horrible person, you can replace it with a word and say, oh yeah, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have done that, I could have been more patient. That doesn't make me a horrible person. It just means that I have to find a way to apologize to the person and then move on from there. Or I have to find a way to change my wording. It's like you wanting to do something and then the voice within you is telling you you can't. Instead of saying I can't do this, just replace it to say, oh, if it was a friend that was telling me, oh, they want to do this race, for example, or climb a particular mountain, are you going to tell them that they can't, or are you going to encourage them? And if you're going to encourage your friend, why can't you encourage yourself? If you're going to, be the number one cheerleader for a friend or a family member, or even your children, if you have kids, why can't you be your own cheerleader? So I say all that to say that as women, we need to start changing how we talk to ourselves. We need to start changing, how we think of ourselves, the way we show up for ourselves. We show up for everyone. We're everyone's cheerleader. We're everyone's number one fan. We encourage people around us. We pour life into our children, into our friends, into our relationships. Why can't we do the same for ourselves? That's all I'm saying. It's high time we start learning to pour life into ourselves and just do better and be better when we're dealing with ourselves.